understanding of mental health, for a community to come together for the purpose of expanding our understanding of mental health, to have over 130 people come together on an evening to be able to learn more about mental health, to be able to help ourselves gain in our understanding and in our practice of mental health. It's something that every single person, bar none, needs to be working on constantly. If we're not working on improving our mental health, often that ignoring of it leads to a decline in mental health. And so I really applaud every single person for taking the time out to come and listen to hopefully some productive words this evening that can allow us to learn together, to be able to improve our mental health. One of the questions I received on the chat is whether or not you could ask questions. We will hold time at the end for people to be able to ask questions. We'll just ask people to click the raised hand icon at the end, and we'll try to call on you and take your questions at the end, and we'll be able to answer questions that way. I want to begin this evening with recognizing somebody that I work together with at Amudim. Miriam Lankry is the clinical director of Amudim. She contacted me just as recently as today to say, hey, we want to put this together. This is important. And we want to be able to present on this topic for the community. And the participant number just keeps growing. It's really incredible to see. So really thank you to her. And she's really the expert on a lot of these topics. And I'll do my best to fill her shoes to the extent that I can. Amudim is an incredible organization that I have the privilege to work for. They are an organization that addresses both intervention as well as prevention. And I want to share some ideas of what Amudim can provide to the community. In fact, to every single person on this Zoom call right now, which means really to every member of Klal Yisrael, Amudim is there to help for anybody who needs help when it comes to mental health. And I'm going to elaborate on some of that more in detail as to what you can do to reach out and what kind of services they can provide. But I want to introduce this topic with actually a Gemara. The Chazal tell us in the Talmud that if somebody has da'ga, believe, if somebody has worry, somebody has tension, discomfort in their heart, the Gemara in one opinion tells us they should make sure to seek out somebody that they can speak with. They should speak it out with someone. And really, that's one of the best sources in the Talmud for the idea of therapy, for the idea of having somebody that you can confide in, that can give you an empathic and a non-judgmental listening ear, as well as direction. And that Gemara is crucial for us to understand a big reason why we're all here. Just the ability to see the community together, gathering together, ba'achdus, to be able to come together in such a beautiful way to talk about this topic and to learn, itself already provides a level of comfort and a level of chizuk, of strength to everybody that comes together when it comes to mental health. There's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch that says that a person, when they come to a mourner's house, to an avel, that you do not start the conversation with that person. You sit there quietly, you're there for them, and you allow them to start the conversation. Because while we want to make sure that we can provide a listening ear, and we can provide a good friendship, and sometimes we can make sure that somebody seeks out professional help, that they can speak to someone and be heard in a non-judgmental fashion with empathy, we also can't push a person to go. We can encourage, we can suggest, but we can't push that person. And just like when you're there to give chizuk to the person who's sitting shiva, to the person who's mourning, we want to make sure that they are at their own comfort, at their own pace, at their comfort level, that they're getting the help that they need, that they have the listening ear that they need, but we're not going to push them. We're not going to start the conversation and try to direct the conversation. And so it is when it comes to anybody trying to help another person, and especially from a professional perspective, when we want to try to help other people. So those two, I think, halachos really give us the full picture of being there to listen, to allow a person to speak, and also to make sure that it is done at their comfortable pace in a way that they're comfortable with it. So the first thing that I wanted to highlight in terms of Amudim's services is on the intervention side. And that really is one of the key programming and services that Amudim offers. The primary vehicle for this are the case managers. Essentially, what Amudim offers to the public at large is that when you call Amudim, and I'm going to post their website in a minute, when you call Amudim, you can look them up online, and you speak to someone, you will be connected with a case manager. A case manager, a mental health case manager, is not the same thing as a mental health professional who's there to be your therapist. A case manager is there as the bridge between you and getting whatever professional help you need. It allows you to be able to call Amudim to say, look, I'm not meeting this person. I'm just talking to them on the phone, and they're guiding me to what would be the best source? What would be the best source of help for me to be able to help myself? Or maybe I have a friend that's in trouble. What kind of guidance and advice can you give to me that can allow me to be able to help myself and to help others? And the case managers themselves happen to all be licensed and trained mental health professionals, but that's not what they're choosing to do with their time. They're working for Amudim to be able to be there for people in need, to allow them to have guidance. What's the right method of therapy? What's the right method of intervention that I should seek out? So it's referral. They'll be there to be able to help refer the right mental health professional for somebody, but it's so much more than that. What happens when a person goes to a therapist and they leave that first session and they think, was that normal? Was that supposed to happen? Did that feel right? They can call their case manager, and their case manager will call them for follow-up. And they can tell them, here's how it went. Here's what I'm not sure about. And with their expertise and their professional judgment, they can tell them, yes, that's normal. It takes time. Or they can tell them, no, there's a red flag there. They can guide them along the process of therapy. Sometimes therapy is like a shidduch. It doesn't work out with that particular therapist. Okay? Amudim case manager can then tell that person, that's normal. Sometimes it doesn't work out right away with that particular therapist. We're going to help transition you to another therapist. Let's see how it goes with that person. Otherwise, many people, they're not so familiar with the process of therapy. So they think to themselves, whoa, that's what it's like. Therapy's not for me, when really it just wasn't a shidduch with that person. And so there are many aspects of case management that can help people where regular just trying to find a therapist itself is not really going to be sufficient for that person. And that really highlights the great service that Amudim is providing for the community at large. It does not cost any money. Amudim is a nonprofit and does not charge for their services, which means you can call and you can get the guidance and ultimately the help that you need in a very comfortable fashion, and then get continued follow-up guidance as you go through the process. It's incredible to watch the work that they do. That all is on the clinical supervisory part of things. And again, I acknowledge Miriam Lankry as the clinical supervisor of all the case managers that are running under her. It's a tremendous operation and it's very impressive. And I urge anyone who's looking to seek out help really in any mental health capacity. It started out with a special focus on abuse and addiction, but it really has expanded to any mental health needs of the community. Please reach out. They're there and ready for you. I want to introduce myself in my capacity, specifically as Director of Education for Amudim. And really that switches from the intervention side to the prevention side of what Amudim services can bring to the table, can offer to people who are in need. As Director of Education, there are multiple areas in which we try to help provide prevention services to the community. We travel to communities to do in-person trainings. We have a number of people that we connect with, colleagues of mine within the organization and outside the organization. We provide all sorts of resources. In fact, I'm going to post here together with Amudim's website, the Darchenu website, which is actually one of our curricula that we offer to schools in 5th through 8th grades, 9th through 12th grades. Everyone should be able to see that in the chat there. That's Amudim's website, as well as Darchenu's website. And specifically, that's the area of Darchenu's website, which is the curriculum resources. And there you'll find 3 resources that you can enter your email address and download right now about discussing delicate current events with our children? How do we discuss difficult things that happen in our communities with our children? It was written many months ago, but unfortunately it comes up time and time again. How do we discuss with our teen and our teenage children? How do we discuss with them when it comes to establishing healthy habits surrounding boundary safety?
You got to
Sometimes,
get in line.
Rabbi, I'm sorry, I'm going to mute
Get in
everybody
line.
and then I'm going to unmute you.
no
Fuck
problem.
out then.
Thank you. How do we make sure to educate our children, not just at the young age where there are many educational materials out there, but even at an older age, at a preteen and teenage age? How do we speak to our children about boundary crossings, which many times is at the root of unfortunate mental health circumstances? And how do we also discuss everything that's going on when it comes to something like current events like a war in Eretz Yisrael that's going on now? How do we discuss these things? That's actually written, that one, in the form of the curriculum sessions themselves. It's called a social emotional learning curriculum, which is a very popular curriculum in today's society. It's something that's offered with extensive comprehensive resources and trainings and supervisions to the teachers and the principals in almost 100 schools now nationwide and even internationally. So that's a very curriculum that we're very proud of. It's called Darchenu and Our Path SEL, two different versions of the curriculum servicing the full spectrum of the schools in the Jewish community. And it is a wonderful curriculum starting at the foundational topics like friendships and emotional coping and emotional awareness, and then getting to higher level, more specific topics like bullying and substance abuse and technology, like seeking out therapy so that teenagers understand what that's all about and destigmatizing all of that. It's an incredible curriculum. And again, the website is there, darchenu.org. I specifically linked the curriculum resources tab in the website, where again, you can get those 3 free resources that are very helpful to many parents in educating their children. And frankly, they're helpful to people themselves, even as adults, to be able to see it written out in a structured, helpful way. I want to just end before I give it over to the Rebbitzin with just some basic techniques that I want to share as a mental health professional that everyone can use to help themselves improve their mental health. One of the things that I do with all of my clients before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of some of the issues that they're struggling with is I get a basic understanding of how the three most basic vital aspects of a person's well-being, how well those 3 things are attended to. And those 3 things are diet, sleep, and exercise. If a person is getting a great night's sleep and never exercising and not eating well or starving or eating very unhealthy or whatever, they're not going to be in a good mood and they're not doing their mental health a favor. Same thing. They can be have a great diet and they can have a lot of exercise, but they're not getting enough sleep. We all know what that can be like, even just from one night of not getting enough sleep. Imagine if that's happening on a continued basis. Same thing with exercise as well. Everything else can be going well, but there's no exercise. It's something that can really take its toll on the person. In fact, exercise, I would say, interestingly, often affects the chemicals in our brain just in similar fashion to what the psychotropic, those are the psychological medications, can do themselves. So being able to pay attention to our diet, sleep, and exercise is crucial. And looking at those and seeing how we can improve those can be a huge benefit to the state of our mental health. Additionally, one other thing I want to mention, 2 other quick things. Mindfulness is a technique that many therapists use with their clients these days in a very brief presentation. What it does is it allows you to ground yourself in the present by paying attention to even the most minor details around you, noticing things you normally wouldn't around you. This touches very much on breathing, where we notice the breath that we take in and the breath that we exhale. When we focus on the breathing, of course, there are breathing exercises and there are whole courses you can take, whole treatments of therapy you can take to work on our breathing exercises and how relaxing and healthy that can feel when we go through those techniques. Those are things that can help us, and they're easy and they're accessible to every single person pretty much at any time of the day. So paying attention to the breathing taps into mindfulness, and then slow and deeper breathing itself can be a very relaxing exercise. Again, there's much more to say on this topic, but I want to keep it brief for tonight. One last thing I want to mention. it's very easy for us to focus on the things that stand out in our lives. And unfortunately, usually what stands out is the difficulty, the pain. My whole body can be healthy, but if I stub my pinky toe, the only thing I'm focused on is my pinky toe in pain. But my hands and my elbows and my chest, everything's not in pain. Why don't I focus on that? Because it's natural and normal for the human being to focus on what's not going right. And it's a challenge and it's a test of growth to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to purposely and consciously focus on the things that are going right. Because everyone also has things that are going right in their life. Actually making this a structured habit where on a nightly basis you write down one or two things that you're happy for in your life that are going well, that went well today, or in general that you're happy about having in terms of health, in terms of family, in terms of job, in terms of profession, in terms of the ability to think, and there's countless things that can be focused on. Those are things that are crucial to be able to focus on a nightly basis, and if we do that, then we allow ourselves, it actually affects us. As we say, it's in Mesilas Yesharim and it's in other places, the chitzonius, the external, is influences the internal. The way we are on the outside, the way we act, the way we purposely think and speak can have a major influence on how we are on the inside. And that's something to recognize that we can actually, over time, put ourselves into a generally more positive frame of mind if on a daily basis we try to think about one or two things, even write them down like a gratitude journal, one or two things that we're grateful for, that we're happy for, that we have hakarat tov for, to Hashem, to our family members, and really just recognizing it within ourselves. Those are just some of the things that I wanted to highlight in terms of improving our mental health, improving our relationships with others in our home, making our homes happy and peaceful places, being able to build our own positive attitude, which becomes contagious and allows us to have more patience. And of course, please feel free to reach out to Amudim at any time for any help that you need in the area of mental health in general. They are there to help you. The case managers are standing by to help you with anything that you would like help with, and they can direct you to the right resources. And again, it's a privilege to be able to be here with everyone. And I turn it over to the Rebbitzin. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll take questions at the end as well. Rebbitzin, if you could just unmute yourself before you begin.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. I'm actually going to mute everyone just one more time, and then you'll unmute yourself, okay? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for this all information that's super necessary to everyone to know and hear. And thank you for the organization All About Kindness, such an amazing organization that does so much for the Jewish community. Hashem will bless you. My name is Diana Deal, and I am a coach, NLP coach, and I'm helping women to stop their automatically behaving and being more aware to themselves, healing themselves. So when we're talking about everybody's talking about self-care. Take time for yourself, coffee, shopping, but really whatever is self-care, it's really to understand that my feeling and my emotionally feeling, it's also I am in a healthier way. That means if a woman feel consistently up and down, overwhelming, very irritated, very quickly getting angry, that's a sign already that something needs to be changed. And when a woman realizes that that's what's happening to her, that's basically coming from a lot of pressure, coming from a lot of pressure, and could be also from a not healthy environment. So it could be also coming happening to a woman when I'm just a little bit excited. So I just really want to talk from my heart, and I hope it's going to come through your heart. And when I'm talking about emotionally health and emotionally self-take care, one of this, it's also when you realize what's happening with you, when you realize how are you feeling, what are your thoughts, are you able to go to work, have a basic normally routine. And when those things, and it's supposed to be basically most of the time when we feel up and down, that means we need to check it. Now, healthy environment, a healthy child, we all want that our kids, right, will be successful and happy and grow in with confidence and being happy kids. And sometimes because we got triggered by our kids, so we automatically respond. We sometimes it could be that we are not talking in the right way to them, saying words for them like, "I'm got sick of you," "I'm tired of you," "Go away." So many sentences that we say to a child. Now, a child cannot protect himself because he believes to what we're saying. And when they start to believe to this and they grow up with those kind of nonsense and those kind of word and those kind of voice, they start to believe to this, and that's what basically can give them a cause of so much frustration in their adult child, in their adult life. Now, I'm here to tell you that there is a hope. Okay, I know that a lot of people did not grow up in smoothly life, and that's okay, and that's normal. Now, our parents did not try to hurt us, and not anyway. They did whatever they know, and they gave us whatever they could. So we are here to say that it's possible to be it's possible to heal ourselves from those even little traumas, because those little traumas cause to a big, if we're not taking care of the womb, it's gonna grow and grow and grow. And we as a parent, our responsibility to taking care, if you feel that you respond to your child so quickly, so angry at him, or so feeling like you have no patience anymore, and then you feel guilt. What did I did? I shouldn't tell him like this. I shouldn't talk to him this way. And you promise to yourself so many times that you want to be a better parent, that you don't want to be the way that you were raised. But in your automatic response, you come back to this old habit. And then we feel guilt and shame and angry and frustrated. And this is kind of a cycle that we can goes and build himself. So I'm here to tell you that you have the ability to stop it, because sometimes the history come back to goes to our kids, and we want to change that. So the way for us to change that, it's first to understand that you can heal yourself. You can, even it doesn't have to be something traumatic, something so but because the child cannot protect himself from whatever when we were a kid. So sometimes we need to come back to our own childhood, to our inner child, to heal this place, and then we're going to be able to be much calmer person, much calmer parent, much loving, and much more with empathy. I know from our community, I hear a lot of women tells me, "What is empathy? What do you want me to spoil my child? Like, I cannot do always whatever he wants." So no, I am here to tell you that empathy does not mean you're spoiling your child. The reason that they are saying this to me is because they don't know what empathy means. They think it's empathy, it's to give to the child to do whatever he wants, or to spoil him. But that's not true. Empathy, that's mean it's the feeling, basically, to say to the child, "I see you. I see you're struggling. I see right now it's hard for you to close your iPad and do whatever I ask for." So does not mean I agree, does not mean that whatever he's doing is the right way, but that's not mean I'm going to give in. So empathy, that's mean I see your difficulty, I see your frustration. If the child, many parents does mistakes when the child is very has tantrum, and they start to educate their child, they start to ignore him, or they leave him alone. Okay, so cry louder, and that's bring, even it's a small trauma, but that's bring this is tremendous trauma for a child. When we leave them, when they cry, they feel that the whole world right now, it's clapping, and we don't love them and we hate them. So we need to be very, very careful. If we want to raise healthy kids, much more happier, it's to never ever leave them when they're crying, and be there for them. And I also want to tell you that if it's hard for you to stay over there for your child, it's not your fault. It could be that you as a child did not get this empathy from your own parents. And I am here to tell you also that it's possible that both of you, that you can give now, as you today, as adult, as a mother, you have the ability to heal yourself from your own trauma, from this specific trauma, and help to your child to be more with better relationship, with more caring, with more loving, with more patient, with more enjoying of your parenting. Because parenting could be very, very challenges also, but also very loving, and to take those triggers in the moment and growing from this. And Hashem give you those buttons that press your the triggering you. It could be a big blessing. You can heal yourself from those triggers. Hashem send you these triggers for you, so to help you and lift you up through your experience of your parenting, to heal you and your child as well, because we want to stop this cycle. We want to stop it, right? We don't want to be like our parents. We want to grow. We want to be better than we raise. So and that's possible to do when we are aware to ourselves, when we learn self-awareness, and when we heal our own inner child. It's super, super important, especially if you feel it's hard for you to be a good mother. It's hard for you to be patient. It's hard for you not to come and you those automatically behaving. So this is number one of self-care, and this is, you are saving not only yourself, your influence on your kids, on your grandkids, because the way that you're going to talk to your kids, this is how they're going to talk to themselves. Because if we will learn how to being more in those trigger moments, when we blowing up and we are so angry, when we learn to manage this, they're gonna learn how to manage it. Because a lot of parents comes to me, can you taking care of my child? He have anger issues. He's so overwhelming. He's so tantrum. But I'm saying, when we're gonna learn to work with our own anger, because they copy us. Kids are perfect. They learn, they grow, and they Hashem create them perfect. So they copy us. The way that we respond, that's how they're gonna respond, and that's your grandkids how they're gonna respond, and that's how we're gonna continue. So when we are focusing on ourselves, so a lot of women tells me, yes, I'm working on myself. I am. So how they work? I ask her, how are you working on yourself? She tells me, well, I'm just not getting angry. I says, that's not mean you're working on yourself, not getting angry, because it is bothering you, right? So she keep the anger right here. Now she's walking like this for 3 days until she just pop. She just getting angry and frustrated. Like, how long she can really keep this anger right here. So I am teaching basically how you can take this, how you can, what's under this anger, because we're angry at our kids because something that we care. There is something over there that we looking forward. We're not going to be angry on our neighbors' kids. We're going to be on our own kids because we care about them, right? So instead of this, I teach how to look under the anger. What are my needs? What is important for me? And talk from this place. And I'm telling you also, so many times I had a session with a woman that this anger, she said it was hard for me to be patient with my child. So I said, so when we look inside of what is this was hard, what was bothering her, annoying her, there was a lot of anger that even now was not even belonged.
Let's go. Bathroom.
This anger was belonged to her past, to her past, to her father, to her mother, that this is anger that's controlling her in this present.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Can you unmute yourself? Sorry.
So that this anger was belonged to her past, when she was this And when she recognized this, that these voices and this anger is not even belong to her, it's automatically make her feel much more calmer. She find her own voice that she was able to manage this anger and not to that the anger will control her. And that's a tremendous change that I can say, that can really does not have to take for so long. And I found this way because I by myself learned so much about parenting before I found out these NLP tools that working on your subconscious mind. And no matter how much books I read, newspaper, videos, reading, when it comes to a real moment, I was like, come back to my old behaving, screaming, yelling, punishing, couldn't really apply the skills that I learned. And I felt like bad about myself that I couldn't apply it. And since I opened to this world of subconscious mind, how this I can remove those, how can I deal with those emotions and how can I control it and work with them, I realized that it's much easier. It takes me much short time to achieve my goals, to being patient, to being more calmer, to being more enjoying my parenting. And that's why I'm here today, wants to help others. So if we went through a hard childhood or even just things that bothering us, we do not have to stay with this. We can heal, we can help ourselves to being the mother that we want, to being this patient, to being this calm, to being this, and with Hashem's help. It's always with Hashem's help because Hashem is the healer and I'm just the messenger. To do this together, and I see tremendous result. For a short time, 4 or 5 times, when they're practicing the tools, when they learn the skills, it's already different life. A lot of women says, Diana, you give me a gift for my life. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for Luda, for this organization. And that's why I start also positive thinking, also with the young girls. So they will learn how to work on their mindset, how they work on their thoughts, how they take control over there and not the thought controlling them. So that's why we are offering also through this or to all my to this organizations of Luda, all about kindness, to start teaching the teenager how to basically we can help them, how we can basically teach them some tools that can help them to be a better grown-up, a better adult, a better person, to feel good about themselves. And because from a lot of work that I'm working with the women, they always tells me, I wish my daughter will knew that. I wish my daughter will learn about it. So we don't, there is like special things that the teenager can learn just for themselves because there's so much going on in their life. And by those simple things that they can learn, it really can affect and doing their experience of their teenager time, dealing with that much calmer. So thank you so much, Luda. If you want the details, Luda can share it with you and give it to you, the information.
Do you have anything that you want to put in the chat, like a website or a cell phone number or anything?
Yeah, I can put it. Oh, Luda can put it? I can't hear you, Luda.
You're muted.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. First of all, thank you so much, Rebbitzin, for coming on and giving us over this information. Rabbi, I'm gonna send over the flyer to you if you can post it in the chat, and also we'll post the phone number where to reach out for the flyer. In the meantime, we're gonna carry over to the amazing principal of Shari Tzion High School, Girls High School. Mrs. Erica is here with us also to address the subject. Thank you so much for coming on, and if you can just also add your expertise on the subject, we'd really appreciate it. And Rabbi will take questions after. Amazing. Thank you.
First, thank you. Thank you so much for hosting this. I think it's so important to do this. And I want to share, I'm not a mental health expert. I am an educator. And I think that sometimes it's important to be able to normalize these types of conversations. And I want to thank the Rebbitzin, even in the conversation about speaking about empathy. There are so many times where parents have said to me, or I've heard people speak about in the conversation, our community doesn't deal with mental health. We don't need that. We don't do therapists because we're just very strong. And I do agree that this community is incredibly strong. And I know my parents and grandparents coming out of the Holocaust also had this approach where it's like we're very, very strong and our parents didn't need it. And we were gritty and we got through and it's okay. And we went through very, very difficult things and we could get through. And I think that we are blessed today to have the opportunity to talk about mental health in an important way. And I also think that unfortunately, we notice that sometimes it can be incredibly dangerous when people don't talk about mental health. And mental health is something that's so important to be able to have the conversation with. And even for those of you that may say to yourself, you know what, I don't notice anything in my children and my children are fine and I don't need to tell them about the story. And maybe you don't. But I think I do think it's important to always tell your children that they should always have a place to talk. And that if there's something that comes up, whether it's they're sad or they're depressed or they're anxious or they have very strong emotions about whatever it is, that they should always feel safe to come and speak to you. And that you should know that there are places to go and to talk, and that the world of mental health is very sophisticated and can help children and adults find help. And sometimes it's burying it deep down inside and not sharing it with others. That is what's so scary and so dangerous. And what you see in situations like this and in others is that sometimes people, when they're in that dark place, it's almost like a cloud. It's like they can't see clearly. It's like, imagine you take a cup and you put in, sand and then you shake it up and it's like you can't see anything. You can't see clear. But the ability to get help gives people the ability for that dust to settle and to be able to see another way. And I think, even if our children seem healthy right now, it's so important to plant the seeds that there may be times in their lives where it's not going to be so calm. And I always say this to our parents and to our girls, if we could protect them, that nothing bad would ever happen, of course we would. But we know that that's not life. Life has challenges, life has difficulties, and our bodies change, our brains change, life changes, things happen. And we have to react and we have to build our children to be strong and resilient and give them the emotional strength and the tools to be able to navigate whatever life approaches. And so therefore, having the conversations about mental health and just even normalizing it and saying it's okay. And if something is bothering you, you should be able to talk. And sometimes speaking to a therapist is actually wonderful and it will give you really great life skills. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. And it doesn't mean you're broken, and it doesn't mean that you're mentally unstable. It just means that you're going to be able to navigate life a little bit better, and you'll get a little bit more skills and a little bit more of this and a little bit more of that. And the more we normalize it, the more I think we're giving our kids healthy tools and keeping them stronger and safer and ensuring stronger relationships. So I really do think it's important to be able to have these conversations, to normalize it, to discuss it. And also I think it's so important not to be judgmental about any life situations that happen, meaning we don't know what happens. It's not our place to stand by and say they were, it's just our place to look at it with kindness and to be able to say, she didn't see a way out. And so, you should never, ever have to feel like that. And nobody should ever have to feel like that. And we should all be able to support each other and be there for each other and know that if something ever happens, we're there for each other.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much for summing it up so beautifully. We really appreciate everything you're doing for the girls and the community at large. We're so blessed to have you. Rabbi, can we open the floor for questions?
Yeah, definitely. We can open it up to questions. If anybody has a question, they can click I think it's under the reaction button where you can choose a raised hand and we'll be able to see you and call on you. I just want to say that addressing, as the Rebbitzin said, to the subconscious and the underlying emotions is critical. And then, as Mrs. Zerker was just saying, addressing, keeping the open lines of communication with our children is absolutely critical and vital. I'm so happy that those points were raised when it comes to being able to continue with positive mental health for ourselves and for our families. Those are really critical points. Thank you so much. I very, very much appreciate how you expressed all those. I want to also mention that I happen to have just on my own a bunch of lectures that I recorded on my own website that I'll post on a lot of these topics when it comes to mental health, etc. So we also posted in the chat some of the Rebbitzins resources, so please take a look at those flyers there. And I'll just post my website there if anybody wants to see some of the resources that I have there as well. Anybody have any questions? Let's see. If you're more comfortable posting the question in the chat, you can. If you could just post it to everyone. But one of the questions that I got in the chat just directly revolves around how do you ever discuss with someone something, a tragedy, when something difficult happens. So one of the things that I mentioned in that Darcheinu resource that I mentioned, if you scroll up in the chat, you can see the websites there, both for Amudim and for Darcheinu, is that we actually have a booklet ready to go. You can get it for free. I'm just going to post those two websites again, just so that it's further down in the chat. But in the Darcheinu website there, you can get a free resource. There's a booklet there that specifically, hold on, let me post that to everyone, that specifically deals with how to discuss delicate current events. It actually was written in response to the whole Chaim Walder situation many months ago at this point, and unfortunately has come up time and time again when difficult, tragic current events happen in the community. And therefore, there is a resource there that's downloadable on that website on darcheinu.org right now, which you can get, as well as other resources, free resources for parents and for people to be able to read, again, to improve their own mental health and for their families. I am getting a bunch of questions in the chat, but I did want to just make sure that we talked about that. Some basic things in terms of speaking to children, you do not have to go into any specific level of detail with a child. The children need to see, especially from a role modeling perspective, that you as the parent, as the adult, are strong. You're dealing with this from a healthy perspective. You know, it's okay for you to have some level of emotional reaction. That's normal, but it should never get anywhere close to an extreme reaction. It should be very controlled. It should be very stable. Children thrive on seeing the stability in their parents and in their home, and therefore it may need to be addressed. And each individual incident that happens has to be addressed uniquely, and you need to get specific guidance for those. But again, a general idea is that it needs to be addressed where you've already come to terms with it yourself, you coped with it to an extent at least, and you're calm, cool, collected, you're able to talk about it with a level of confidence. And from a healthy perspective, that's the best way to have these conversations with children. Let me see if I can pass off a question to the Rebbitzin here. One question I see here is, what about the fact that sometimes women need more than mental health? In other words, they need a therapist. I guess I'll address this to you, the Rebbitzin. They need also to be able to have actual help from other people, practical help, whether it's making a meal or, helping with the children in the house. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it's super important. It's a very important part of the healthy emotionally support. And I think it's all about what comes first. We need to be in a way that we not feel that we have the support environment. Does not have to be always the husband. It could be a good friend, good neighbor, someone that I can be reliable. So I need to surround myself with a support environment. So I'm not gonna feel alone, and everything, all the pressure will just goes to the spouse, to the husband. That's what's bring a lot of pressure between the spouse. So we need to find and build to us for ourselves environment that will support us. That we're not gonna feel lonely in the hard moments. So it does not have to be also family members. Could be a good friend, could be a therapist, could be the organization, Oh My Kindness. So to know that we have people to reach out to, that we're not alone, and it's because a lot of women feel guilt to feel ask for help, to ask for, because this is I'm not weak, I'm not they think the opposite. When you learn to ask for help, the opposite is strong, because you acknowledge yourself that I need help, and that's okay. If I need a babysitter, or if I need a meal, when I'm learning to ask, because our old generation teaches a lot not to ask for questions, not to do everything by ourselves, not to ask for support, and 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 it's okay. I want you to let yourself to okay to ask for help, for help, and we're always also gonna have the strength to give it back one day. So we're
I
building
just want to
relationships.
say that I have to jump off, sending
Yeah.
you all, wishing you all good things, and may we all grow from this. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you
All
all.
right. Thank you so much. Sorry, go ahead, Rebbitzin.
You're mute.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to also add to that question. I think it's extremely important to have a support system and ask for help, and to know when to ask for help, and not to wait for the last moment, because a lot of times we have families that reach out to us that didn't have the right time, that didn't ask for help in the right time, and it became too late. And as a result, are facing challenges that could have been prevented had they had the right support system in place, even if it was as simple as having a teenage neighbor come over and be the mommy helper, or having a neighbor bring over the groceries, or something so simple that the family didn't feel overwhelmed by all the emotional and physical struggles that they were facing at the moment. So it's extremely important to have that support system in place, and to be able to ask for help. It doesn't it's not about showing your strength when and feeling that if I ask for help, I'm weak. It's the complete opposite. To be able to ask for help, it shows that you are strong to know when to ask. I think it's so
Uh,
important.
Absolutely. You know, one of the praises of Bnei Yisrael is ki ish echad b'lev echad, achdut, that we're all united together. So it's very
Exactly.
easy for us to all be united because I want to give, I want to help, I want to be there for others. It's very easy. Everything's good with me. I just want to give to others. But what happens when I need help? It's actually a lack of achdut when I'm not willing to ask for help from someone else. We must be able to say it's not a weakness to ask for help. It's a strength. It takes courage. It takes bravery to say, it's okay. I don't mind if this other person, a professional, an organization who's going to be careful, that I'm going to reveal to them something that I normally would rather stay a secret. It's worth it. It's the right way to be. Because if I don't get that help, if I don't try to ask, I have some specific questions in the chat. You know, how do I handle two siblings that are really very much fighting with each other? How do we solve that? And different types of very specific questions. It's very important to be able to contact someone that can directly get to know you and guide you in your situation, increase the empathy in the home, to be able to role model it, to be able to create incentives, all different types of techniques. But we have to take that first step to say, I'm going to call Amudim. I'm going to call All About Kindness. I'm going to call the Rebbitzin and all the programs that she has going on. I'm going to call a professional to get help. And it's okay. And it takes courage, but it pays back tenfold when you're willing to make yourself just a little bit awkward, a little uncomfortable, and you get through that.
100%.
You say that's okay. You end up gaining so much more back. And that's really part of the Achdut of Klal Yisrael. I'm just going to scan some more of these questions here. And that I think we answered what we can do as a community to help one another, really to be there for another, a listening ear, and again, to encourage people to reach out for help when they may need to. Sometimes a friend just reveals something in a park, standing next to another mother, that's golden opportunity to say, this is something you need to reach out to someone for. It's not just for me to hear you say it in a park, but this is more serious. Please reach out to someone, give them resources. Sometimes you then text them a phone number, a website, and it actually says, you know what, I'm just going to click here and do it. So much easier when you make it more easy for that person. And then again, to be willing to accept that help.
Yes.
We talked a lot about, dealing with the current events. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah.
Okay. We mindfulness, there's a question about the mindfulness that I spoke about in terms of just recognizing that sometimes children can take it as a joke. That's true. They can, especially most of the people I work with in the schools, teenage boys can certainly do that. You just got to keep it real and sometimes then speak to the child one-on-one. Many times children take things as a joke in group form, but when you speak to the child one-on-one, even after the class is over, or after the group discussion, then they'll be willing to more reveal a little bit, be a little bit more vulnerable, and you can actually get them to take it more seriously without it being in the eyes of the group where there's a lot of social pressure and stigma and all that, even though there shouldn't be. And we want to try to break that. One of the questions is that it can often cost a lot of money to get a therapist. How do you get a therapist without breaking the bank, as the question is written? And that's a very fair question. It is very expensive. Many therapists do not take insurance. What I would tell you is that call the organizations. These organizations have resources available and can direct you to resources available for funding for therapy. Amudim has specific avenues of funding for therapy that they can direct you to. I'm sure the Rebbitzin has ideas. Ms. Mirova also, I'm sure, has ideas that she's helped people in the past and can help you. The community is there to help one another, and that includes in funding as well. So look out. Sometimes they cover all the costs. Sometimes it's a little subsidy that helps. Again, a lot of these things also are not meant for someone who's poverty stricken and living on the streets. It's meant for normal families where the price of therapy is just very, very difficult, even for a normal financially healthy family. It's still very difficult. So there's no stigma with that.
I just want to, while you're on the subject, I just want to add that I'm going to post this in the chat. I'm going to try to take a picture, but it's called Hidden Sparks Parent Educational Center, which is absolutely free parenting guidance for any child that is in a yeshiva. Any family can call and get free guidance from Ethel. I'm going to post her information. I'm going to take a picture of this. And you can be mentored and guided with any questions you have about any of your children that attends yeshiva education. Everything is funded by the Department of Education, and it's completely free of charge to you. So any question and any situation you have with your children's school, with your children, with the sibling rivalry or anything, you could reach out to them and they will guide you with all the resources that they have as well.
And please post that in the chat
I
because
will.
Amudim can help as well, but Amudim needs all the organizational help it can
Right,
get
of course.
from across the communities. Baruch Hashem, that's great. There's a question in the chat. Maybe I don't know if the Rebbitzin can deal with this or not, but there's a question about whether or not Rebbitzin, and you're not the spokesperson, but you're in the community, so I'll ask it to you. You tell me if you can answer or not. Whether or not there's a push for the Rabbanim, just like we have the Rebbitzin here for the women, for the Rabbanim, for the men, to also destigmatize mental health, to encourage an ability to be vulnerable and reach out, and to support a wife and children to go seek out mental health.
Yes, that's for sure. I know that OHEL does this for the men. OHEL organization, and you can get it from your insurance, and it's full covered for the I know that it's for the whole entire family, but I know that men take them more time to acknowledge and to understand that they need it. I know that it's a process with the men. Most of the men are not, especially the Bukharian community, are not wants to be explored, wants to be part of it. But if you really want to go in private, I do know some therapists, a Jewish one, that can help.
Okay, that's very important, and it sounds like part of it is to try to have the Rabbanim on board as well. And Obviously, if there's any specific rabbi or any organization that we can be put in touch with, we'd be happy to do that from an
Right.
Amudim perspective as well. One of the questions is about the stigma in the community. I think we addressed that already. Just having this meeting itself at one point with over 200 participants is an excellent step in the direction of destigmatizing seeking out mental health and recognizing how important it is to go ahead and seek out that mental health. Amudim and these other organizations, I'm sure as well, deal with all different mental health issues. The case managers are trained to help you. If you reach out to them at amudim.org, you can reach out, whether it's anxiety and depression, whether it's coming from chemical sources, environmental factors, including postpartum and many other different types of factors that cause anxiety and depression, and ADHD can get into it as well as spectrum disorder. All the different diagnoses are there and ready to be dealt with, and they're again licensed and trained professionals, as well as the Rebbitzin here that you have as a resource, and the Smerova's organization as well. Let me see. I'm just scanning the questions. If either of you have anything that you want to say here.
Again, my email, I'm going to put it in it again into the chat. If anybody has any specific questions about any resources that you might need, I just put in the email there. You're more than welcome to email us, and whatever resources we have that we've been able to provide throughout the years, we'll be more than happy to share.
Somebody mentioned thank you for that. Somebody mentioned in the comments that just being able to say I'm willing to take is actually a form of giving itself, because when you take, you actually give someone else an opportunity to do chesed, which is a very, very well said. I appreciate that comment. Again, there's a question about addiction. We're gonna try to start wrapping up here. A lot of questions coming in the chat, but there's a question about addiction, which Amudim again is expert at, as I'm sure the Rebbitzin, and all about kindness as well. Please reach out with your specific concerns. There's a lot to say on the topic of addiction, of course. There is a thought about when it comes to therapy, that there's an element of reporting, that therapists are mandated reporters, and therefore people are hesitant to contact therapists because those therapists now have to report to the government, and it gets into a whole opens a whole can of worms. I just want to say, yes, it's true, there are areas of mandated reporting, but all of the therapists that I know that are professional and good at what they do, they will discuss in detail exactly when something needs to be reported, how something needs to be reported with the people that they're working with. They're going to make sure to work with those people in the most comfortable way possible, so that while at the same time they're doing everything that they're supposed to do, they're also making sure that the family is well taken care of. It's not just simply, oh, you mentioned that. Hold on 1 second. Let me call the government offices. Okay, yeah, you're back on the line. It's not like that. It should not be like that at all. And if any therapist just simply does it that way, then in my opinion, well, I won't finish that sentence, but that's the way that it should be done, taking into account exactly all the needs and the emotional needs of that family and the people that you're working with. This presentation is being recorded. Ms. Mirov, are you going to be sending out? Okay, so where would how could people, so they can get in touch with you through that email address that you posted to get a copy of the
Definitely. They're more than welcome to email that address. It's all about kindness 613@gmail.com.
Okay, and you can also email that email address, and you can send out all those flyers that we posted in the chat. The email addresses.
People are saying that they're not able to see the images in the chat. I'm just going to give the phone number to Hidden Sparks, so this way they could reach out to them directly. Okay, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. It's 929-3.
Hold on, you want me to put this in the chat?
I put it in the chat, but it seems like people are not able to see the chat for some reason. They're private messaging me.
929
388 9529. 929-388-9529. It's Hidden Sparks, helping children reach their full potential.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Let me just see a couple of other comments here. I mean, I'm happy to continue to stay on. You can let me know when you need to end. We have okay. We have a I'm sorry, I might be missing some comments. There's just a lot of comments here, so I'm just trying to scan them quickly. Okay, one of the comments is it's just one of my pet peeves. One of the comments, and I don't know if people will like what I'm about to say or not, but one of the comments is about the difficulty of being able to get everyone on board with having a cleaning lady in your house. One of the lines from Rabbi Zachariah Wallerstein that stuck in my mind for many years, Rabbi Zachariah Wallerstein Zatzal, is actually the following. He says, the two most important words for Shalom Bayit, is cleaning lady. So at least I can quote Rabbi Wallerstein and say that he definitely felt that it was important to make sure that everyone's getting the support that they need and the help that they need. And that's super important because, again, all the mental health in the world, but if you pile too much on one person's shoulders, all the mindfulness and everything else is not going to really help them. You have to make sure that everything is normal. It's a normal amount of a load and stress and to bear. Okay, just take a look at a few more comments here. So again, questions about organizations. Again, you have All About Kindness, and you have the Rebbitzins different groups and options that are within the community. You have Amudim at large, really helping nationally and even internationally. Amudim even has an Israel office as well as an American office. So please take advantage of those organizations. A lot of questions about very specific circumstances, but there are divorces in the family and other things. There's a lot of difficulty when it comes to getting into the nitty-gritty of every person's family. Again, this is not the forum to address all of those, but a lot can be said. And again, I encourage you to reach out to get the help that you need. I think, let's see if we could take one more. Okay, there's one last question here. Yeah, okay, another question just about reporting and all of that. Again, when you are looking for a therapist, and case management, I can tell you this from Amudim specifically, can help guide you in this. You can ask before you start with a therapist, how do you handle certain cases? What's your step-by-step process? They can and should be very forthcoming with how they handle cases where there can be sensitive information that may need to be reported, how exactly they go about doing that, what's the step-by-step process. So please don't allow that to be the roadblock to therapy. It can be handled in a sensitive, really well-minded process, and it's so important to seek out the help that you need. The alternative is really just not an option. To keep it inside, as the Rebbitzin was saying, to keep everything just stuck inside until one day the person pops is really not okay. So we have to be very careful with that, and we have to sometimes go a little bit outside of our comfort zone to be able to just stretch a little bit to be able to get the help that we need. Okay, that's all the questions I think we'll take for now. We put in all the resources. Again, I will put the resources that we put in before of the websites. Everyone can copy those down. We have the email address there for the recording. We put the Rebbitzins information in. Anything else that I'm forgetting?
That's really it. Thank you so much for coming on such a short notice, and thank you everyone for being here. With Hashem's help, we should only share good news with each other, and we should be able to grow from every situation we're facing.
Amen, amen. Thank you, and thank you, Rebbe.
Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Have a blessed evening. Be well.